Welcome to this week's edition of Outdoors Online, a weekly webcast produced by the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. I'm your host, Tom Jensen. My guest this week is Stephanie Tucker. Steph is the department's fur-bearer biologist. Steph, regulations have now been set for the various fur-bearer seasons. Let's talk about, are there any changes first off?
Sure, there isn't a lot of changes this year to the fur-bearer regulations, but most significant change that muskrat trappers might notice is that we've extended the muskrat season by 10 days. Previously, the muskrat season closed the last day of April in the spring, and now we've extended it to May 10th, the closing date for the muskrat season, and that's mostly because every 5 or 10 years there's a really late spring and the ice doesn't come off those wetlands and the ponds and so forth that they're trapping, and that prevents open water trapping for muskrats in the spring while the fur is still usable. So we've extended that just in the rare case where we have a late spring thaw.
Sure. Let's go over each individual species one at a time. Let's start with muskrats.
Okay, yeah, besides the muskrat season being extended, we've adjusted our cover requirement regulations associated with float trapping of muskrats. So in the spring, a popular way to capture muskrats is to set out floating platforms, and then they set traps on top of those floating platforms for muskrats. Recently, we have just completed a research study looking at the efficiency of those floating platforms for trapping muskrats, as well as the risk those platforms and those traps pose to non-target animals such as waterfowl, primarily. Waterfowl and other water birds like herons, egrets, things that use water as well. And especially during the spring season when we have that peak migration occurring, all those waterfowl is showing back up in North Dakota in large numbers. And so we did a research project looking specifically at float traps, non-target take, and efficiency for muskrat trapping. We found that most of the risk those floats pose to waterfowl is very late in the spring, after that May 1st date. And so we've adjusted when you have to cover those floats to prevent waterfowl from being captured on those floats. And so now you only have to cover your floats from May 1st through May 10th, the last 10 days of the seasons. So that was an adjustment as well.
Steph, probably one of the more popular fur bearers that get targeted simply because there are so many of them are coyotes.
That's correct, Tom. We have a great coyote population in North Dakota. It's once again doing really well this year. There's still a great market for coyote pelts. So that's one of the more popular fur bearers for people to pursue these days, both through predator calling or trapping or cable device use. And it should be good again this year for those people that are wanting to go out and pursue coyotes, both coyote numbers and the pelt prices for coyotes.
All right. Steph, fisher season we've been tinkering with the last few years. We've expanded it in order to give people more of an opportunity. What's the status this year?
No changes to the fisher season this year. This will be the third year in a row that the season structure has stayed the same. It's a 1-week season, starting right after deer gun seasons close and when our late fur bear seasons open up. You can only trap or snare fishers. Again, it's a 1-week season, 1 fisher per trapper. You must contact the department or your local game warden within 12 hours of harvesting a fisher so that we can make arrangements to come and get it tagged, because it is required to get the pelt tagged, and then we will collect the carcass from the trappers at that time so we can collect biological information from the carcasses. Typically, the last couple of years since we've adjusted the season to this current structure, there's about 35 to 40 fishers being taken every year in that 1-week season.
Seems like everybody's always interested, of course, in the mountain lion season. The regs have been set for that too now?
Correct. No changes to the mountain lion hunting season this year. Again, there'll be an early and late season in Zone 1, which is the Badlands area, our primary mountain lion range. The quota in the early season will once again be 14. The quota in the late season will once again be 7. The only difference between the early and late season is in the late season you can use dogs to pursue mountain lions. And then Zone 2 is the remainder of the state, and again, that's open from essentially the beginning of September until March 31st.
Mountain lion seasons then are fairly stable, or no?
No, our trend information, all our surveys and our research has shown that our mountain lion population is declining, so there are fewer mountain lions on the landscape this year than in previous years. So it will be much more of a challenge to successfully harvest a mountain lion this year. The reason behind that is that most of the feedback the department has been receiving from the public up until this point has indicated that the public would like us to manage mountain lions at a lower number than we currently are. And so that's why we have continued to keep the mountain lion quota the same as previous years despite the declining population.
You're involved in a very interesting study on the mountain lions. We got out and did a little filming with you as well. It's worth talking about. Yeah,
we've been having a great time learning a lot about mountain lions in North Dakota. We started in 2011. The research continues. We will continue research until August of 2017. We are currently going to continue to live capture and radio collar mountain lions this coming winter, as well as opportunistically tag kittens if we get that opportunity, so we can get as many tagged individuals out there as possible. That'll continue to give us good estimates of survival of mountain lions in North Dakota. And then we're also going to do a lot of model validation this next round of research, and both habitat model validation and population model validation. And those models are just used to help us set quotas and know what sustainable harvest limits are for mountain lions in North Dakota. And so we're going to provide as much accuracy to those models as possible through that research.
You mentioned snaring a little while back, and of course it's a very popular venue for anyone that traps fur bearers of a certain type and things, but you are tinkering with the regulations a little bit, or just kind of trying to standardize them?
Well, snaring cable device use in North Dakota cable devices are a great tool for trapping in North Dakota, especially canines like coyotes. It's a great late winter tool when the snow is really deep and the ground is frozen and it's hard to use other capture methods to capture coyotes or fox or other fur bearers. And so we don't want to lose our ability to use that tool. But one of the concerns always with cable device use or snaring in North Dakota is that you can catch and injure or kill non-targets in those cable devices. And so,
what do you mean by that?
Well, the cable devices, most that are used in North Dakota, are intended to kill the animals that they're capturing. But that being said, if you're not careful and you catch a non-target animal in a cable device, such as maybe a deer, and you don't have the proper regulations or safety measures in place to prevent the death of that deer, there's always the chance you could kill a deer in a cable device. And so one of the regulations or requirements for cable device use in North Dakota to prevent non-target take is a breakaway. Okay, so your cable devices in North Dakota must be equipped with a breakaway that allows the loop to open up at 350 pounds pull or less. Okay, so something the size of a deer should easily be able to break apart those cable device loops and escape from those cable devices if captured, and it's equipped with the appropriate breakaway device. However, there's a lot of breakaway devices out there on the market and available to trappers these days, and not all of them are legal for use in North Dakota. And when you are varying components of your cable devices, varying locks and breakaway devices and cable diameters, all that changes. And so to ensure that cable device users, trappers, know whether or not their devices are legal for use in North Dakota, we've developed a cable device testing standard. Okay, so all it is laid out procedures to use for testing your cable devices to determine if your breakaways are legal for North Dakota use. And just because you could buy a cable device in North Dakota, anybody can sell a cable device in North Dakota, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's legal to use in North Dakota. So the responsibility is on the trapper themselves to ensure that the cable devices they're using and that they've purchased are legal for use. And so this testing standard will make that easier for those users to determine whether or not they are actually legal for use in North Dakota, and hopefully reduce any incidents of non-target take where a large animal such as a deer or livestock were captured in a cable device but were unable to escape that cable device after capture.
Does that make it an enforcement issue then?
The responsibility is on the trapper to ensure that they're legal for use in North Dakota, and there are regulations stating they have to have these things to ensure that they're legal for use in North Dakota, and if they don't have them, of course it is an enforcement issue. They could potentially be cited for using illegal cable devices in North Dakota. And this cable device testing standard is simply a way to make it much more easier for these trappers to determine whether or not they're legal. So once again this year, similar to last year, people who intend to set cable devices this year or snares for things such as coyotes or fox or bobcats must once again register on the Game and Fish Department website. There's a link right on our Furbearer website right up top that says register here for cable device users. And that's simply to formulate a mailing list of our cable device users. So anybody can trap or use cable devices in North Dakota with either the Furbearer license, the combination license, or a non-resident reciprocal trapping license. However, that's a large number of license holders. That's nearly 80,000 license holders. But we know only a small proportion of those are actually setting cable devices. And so we really want to target that audience of cable device users. So we're requiring them to register so we can formulate a mailing list and send them information on how to use those cable devices responsibly in North Dakota. This will be the last year we're requiring that for cable device users in North Dakota. We required it last year, so many users might remember, and they'll have to go on and get a new registration number once again this year. Write that number on their license so that we know they're registered to use cable devices.
All right, Steph, thanks.
You're welcome.
There are a number of hunting seasons that are about to open for fall. Dove season is set to open Tuesday, September 1st. Bow season for deer and pronghorn, plus the mountain lion season, all open on Friday, September 4th. The much anticipated season for sharptail and ruffed grouse and partridge is scheduled to open Saturday, September 12th. The youth deer season opens Friday, September 18th. And the youth waterfowl season starts the next day, Saturday the 19th. The resident early waterfowl season opens the following weekend, Saturday, September 26th. The pronghorn firearm season starts Friday, October 2nd. Saturday, October 3rd marks the opening of the youth pheasant season and the regular waterfowl season. The pheasant and fall turkey seasons both open the same day, Saturday, October 10th. The deer gun season starts at noon on Friday, November 6th, and the deer muzzleloader season is scheduled for Friday, November 27th. For Stephanie Tucker and the rest of the staff here at North Dakota Game and Fish, thanks for joining us for Outdoors Online. We'll see you again next week.